Hi everyone, in this video we're going to look at switch security configuration. So this is a continuation from our LAN security module. So we are going to look at how we implement security particularly on layer 2 switches. So kita ada satu feature dipanggil port security. So we are going to look at what are the available commands untuk implement port security. Then we are going to look at how to mitigate VLAN attacks. So we've seen a little bit about VLAN attacks, which are VLAN hopping dan juga double tagging. Next, we are going to look at how to mitigate the DHCP attacks, for example, DHCP snooping. Next, we have ARP attacks, for example, the ARP poisoning. And next, we are going to look at how to mitigate the spanning tree protocol attacks. So first, let's look at how we implement port security. If we've looked at the LAN security concepts, we know that kalaulah protection dekat layer 2 berjaya ditembusi, that means whatever protection that we put in the network layer and the application layer will be deemed useless. So that means it's important for us to secure at layer 2. So what are some of the mitigations that we can do untuk prevent layer 2 switch punya port security? Okay. So number one is using the best practice where all switch ports on the interfaces or the switch, they should be secured before the switch is deployed for production. So one example paling simple sekali adalah unused ports, kita kena shut down. So another mitigation adalah untuk menggunakan feature dipanggil port security. So what port security does is to limit the number of valid MAC addresses that is allowed on a particular port. Jadi kita tak boleh lah buat MAC address table attack yang kita overwhelm kan bila hantar broadcast tu. Okay. So kita boleh manually configure what are the possible MAC address yang connect kepada a particular port on a switch. Ataupun masa kita mula-mula configure switch tu, we can make sure that the first MAC address yang kita connect ataupun the first valid PC yang kita connect kepada port dekat switch tu will be learned by the switch. So it's dynamically learned dan dia akan store dalam a list of secure MAC addresses. Selepas tu, kalau ada mesin yang mempunyai MAC address yang berbeza, try to connect to that same port, dia tak akan allow lah. Okay. So how we want to configure port security basically is just one command to enable first. Switch port security. So this is configured on a port basis. Next, kita boleh configure bermacam-macam detail lagi mengenai port security ni. So kalau nak verify first, kita gunakan show port security and that particular interface. So now kalau kita just enable je port security, so it's enabled. Dan kita boleh tengok all the default values. So the default value for port security is the violation mode is shut down. So kalau ada apa-apa port security feature yang kita enablekan dan bila something happens to that particular feature, the port will be shut down. So selepas kita dah enable port security tu, apa lagi feature yang kita boleh buat? For example here, if we cannot remember pun kita boleh guna the question mark, switch port security question mark, then we can tweak the feature of aging. Maksudnya dia punya berapa lama lah. Okay. And then the MAC address. Ini maksudnya kita manually set apa MAC address yang boleh connect kepada that particular port. Ataupun we have the maximum secure addresses. And then the violation. So instead of the default shutdown, kita boleh tukar yang lain lah. So for the maximum number of secure MAC addresses, dia bergantung kepada platform and model of the switch. So in this example, the maximum is 8,192. So for MAC address port security ni, kita boleh set the switch untuk dynamically learn kita punya MAC address yang connect kepada port, ataupun kita boleh set dia static. So the first one kita set static lah, maksudnya kita dah tahu what are the machines that can connect to our switch and we have the list of MAC addresses. Then kita boleh masukkan dengan menggunakan switch port security MAC address and a particular MAC address. Tapi this will be tedious. So kalau tak, kita boleh set dia to dynamically learn. Okay, so kalau kita letak switch port security sahaja, that means dia akan tengok what is the current MAC address for the machine connected to a particular port. Cuma in this situation, katalah switch to shutdown ataupun reboot atau reload, then dia kena buat address learning semula lah. Right, on another way adalah we put the port security as MAC address sticky. Okay, so kalau MAC address sticky, dia akan ingat lah walaupun dia reload. So this is because you save the running configuration into the startup configuration. So untuk aging, we can set the age either absolute or because of inactivity. Right, so kalau absolute maksudnya bila kita set a particular age, then the secure addresses selepas the timer expires, then it will be deleted. Satu lagi, inactivity ni dia akan tengok kalau a particular machine tu is inactive, then dia buang daripada senarai secure MAC addresses lah. Okay, next kita tengok feature violation. So kalau default tadi adalah shutdown, sebenarnya ada dua lagi option, which is to restrict or to protect. So untuk restrict, dia akan tengok what is the maximum number of secure MAC addresses. Okay, so kalau lebih, tiba-tiba lebih daripada the maximum number, then dia akan drop the packet from the unknown source, daripada MAC address yang tak diketahui ini. Kalau kita nak allow yang baru lah, maksudnya sebenarnya machine tu valid, tetapi it is unknown from the statically configured or secure MAC addresses yang kita dah belajar sebelum ni. Katalah kita belajar boleh maksimum 5 sahaja. Now salah satu tu kena buang lah. Right, so bila kita buang, then senarai secure MAC addresses are less then the maximum, barulah dia boleh dynamically learn yang baru. Kalau kita tukarkan kepada protect, yang protect ni dia just biarkan saja drop packet, tetapi dia tak hantar syslog message. Jadi kita tak boleh detect pun there was a violation. So this is the least secure of the port security violation. So the default value for port security violation is shutdown. Bila ada violation, kalau in this mode, the port will be placed in an error disabled state. So dia tak akan hantar traffic. And yang paling penting, dia akan lock, hantar message kepada system lock, so that the administrator will be alert that there has been a security violation. Lagi satu petanda dekat physical layer adalah the link status will be changed to down and the port LED will be turned off. Dia tak menyala. So yang ni contoh lah kalau ada violation. Right, so port status is secure shutdown and kat atas ni kita nampak it is error disabled. So bila dia macam ni, administrator will be alert lah. Jadi dia mesti manually re-enable that particular port. So dia kena pergi dan identify lah apa yang cause the port security violation and dia mesti manually enable semula that particular port. Jadi ini paling secure lah. Mode shutdown ni adalah port security violation mode yang paling secure. Okay, so one of the commands yang paling senang untuk kamu nak ingat to verify your port security is using the show port security command. For per interface port security settings, boleh guna semula command tadi, show port security and a particular interface. Untuk setting MAC address sticky, kita gunakan show run. Next, let's look at how to mitigate VLAN attacks. So first, let's look at what are the VLAN attacks there are. So kita ada VLAN hopping dan juga double tagging. Untuk VLAN hopping, sebenarnya a threat actor can launch this attack using DTP message spoofing. Bila kita launch DTP message spoofing ni, basically we are trying to be another switch. Okay, even though let's say we are sending this message from a laptop, but we are trying to disguise ourselves as a switch and try to send a DTP message untuk negotiate trunking with the legitimate switch. So bila dah ada trunking, maksudnya we remember I highlighted trunk adalah connection between switch to switch that can carry all traffic from all VLANs. So kalau threat actor dah boleh jadi trunk, that means dia ada access kepada traffic daripada semua VLAN lah. Another way adalah basically physically having a switch. Okay, so yang cara pertama basically kamu gunakan host lah ataupun laptop for example, but dia boleh generate DTP messages sama seperti switch. Another way is you memang attach an actual switch. Okay, cara kedua of a VLAN attack is basically using double tagging. So when you use double tagging, kita gunakan konsep native VLAN where a native VLAN does not need to have tagging between switch to switch. Maksudnya dalam trunk. So dia letak dua tag. Right, the attacker puts double tagging so that when it arrives at a particular switch, the switch removes the first tag and tag yang tinggal adalah mempunyai VLAN ID of our target VLAN. So how do we want to prevent this VLAN hopping attack? Satu, kita dah tahu tadi dia datang daripada DTP messages. Jadi kita pun boleh disable DTP. Kita tak mahu supaya switch dengan switch negotiate trunking, so we put switch port non-negotiate. Yang kedua adalah this is the best practice generally untuk semua layer 2 switch, which is to disable all unused ports, and kita letak dalam satu particular VLAN. Okay, kalau dalam lab you may encounter the VLAN parking lot. So parking lot ni specific VLAN lah untuk kita letak semua unused ports. Next, when we want to configure trunking, we make sure that the trunk is configured manually, bukan rely on the DTP. Kemudian, in order for us to prevent double tagging attack, kita make sure that a particular VLAN is set for the native VLAN. Jangan biarkan native VLAN berada di default, which is VLAN 1. Next kind of attack is DHCP attack. So selalunya dia gunakan konsep untuk DDoS lah. DDoS basically we want to make sure that the DHCP server is overwhelmed, ataupun kita panggil ni sebagai DHCP starvation attack. So salah satu cara threat actor boleh buat DHCP starvation attack ni is by using a tool called Gobbler. Okay, so Gobbler ni dia akan generate multiple DHCP discover messages. Okay, tapi dia menyamar seolah-olah it comes from a different machine by the Gobbler generating different MAC addresses. Okay, so untuk this kind of attack, we can protect by using the port security. Macam tadi, maksudnya kita limitkan the number of MAC addresses that can try to connect to a particular port. Okay, so itu satu, kita boleh mitigate gunakan port security, but there is another way in which DHCP attack can be done where dalam the DHCP payload itself, dia letak a different Ethernet address. Okay, so in this case, kita panggil ni DHCP spoofing. So, kita perlu gunakan DHCP snooping. So, konsep DHCP snooping is basically we declare ports yang kita percaya, that means ports yang connected kepada the DHCP server sebagai trusted ports. Jadi, Yang mana yang lain yang kita tak declare trusted ports will be deemed as untrusted. Jadi bila port-port yang tak di-declare sebagai trusted, kita boleh filter messages yang lalu dekat port-port yang untrusted ini. So when we enable DHCP snooping, there is a DHCP table that keeps track, okay, of the IP address binding with the MAC address. So let's look at this example topology. So kita ada DHCP server at this IP connected through the switch through fast Ethernet 01, and then we have the PC connected to the switch through fast Ethernet 05. So we declare the port connected to the DHCP server as trusted. So any port yang not declared as trusted will be deemed untrusted. Jadi apa-apa kat sini DHCP snooping will be filtering. Maksudnya dia tengah perhatikan lah, okay, what is the MAC address that comes from here and whether the MAC address binding is correct or not. Okay, so tengok dekat contoh command ni, the general command is IP DHCP snooping. So this is at the global mode. Then we go inside a particular port untuk topology ni fast Ethernet 1 sebab kita nak declare dia sebagai trusted. So kita gunakan command IP DHCP snooping trust. Okay, so ports ini declare sebagai trust. Okay, so maksudnya di sini apa-apa port yang lain will be untrusted. Okay, so kita bolehlah set additional feature. Contohlah additional feature tu kita letak limit rate. Okay, so in this command, limit rate ini bermaksud dia boleh hanya 6 packets per second sahaja. Jadi tadi kita nak hantar DDoS attack tu tak boleh lah sebab ada limit rate. Kalau kita try to hantar DDoS kan dia hantar bertubi-tubi, but it is controlled through this limit rate in DHCP snooping. Next, kita boleh enable DHCP snooping on a list of VLANs. So this is the command for that. To verify, use the show IP DHCP snooping command. You can also view the MAC address and IP address binding using the show IP DHCP snooping binding. Next, let's look at ARP attacks. Okay, so if you've looked at the LAN security concepts punya video, one typical ARP attack adalah dengan cara menggunakan feature ARP, which is the threat actor akan hantar a gratuitous ARP reply. Gratuitous ARP reply ataupun something called unsolicited ARP reply. Okay, so tujuan this gratuitous ARP reply is basically to tell all the machines in the particular segment bahawa dia adalah gateway. Okay, jadi dia menyamar menjadi gateway. This threat actor, dia hantar dia punya MAC address bersama dengan IP sebenar gateway. Okay, so bila reply macam ni, orang yang dengar tu dia akan letak dalam ARP table dia bahawa untuk kita nak ke IP address gateway, hantar ke machine threat actor. Jadi machine yang legitimate ni dia tak aware lah, dia rasa macam that is coming from a legitimate default gateway. So to mitigate this kind of attack, we can use dynamic ARP inspection or DAI. Okay, so satu I highlight here, in order for you to implement DAI, you must already have implemented DHCP snooping. Okay, so now we have this example topology. So when we enable DHCP snooping, that means we declare this port as trusted. So automatically all other ports except for this one will be deemed as untrusted by the DHCP snooping feature. Then we enable DHCP snooping on the VLAN of interest. For example, dalam topologi ni VLAN 10. Then baru kita configure dynamic ARP inspection. So this is one example configuration. Okay, kita enable dulu secara general IP, DHCP, snooping, and then specify the particular VLAN that we want to enable this snooping on. For example, VLAN 10, right? Then kita enablekan DAI. So command dia IP ARP inspection VLAN 10. Okay, so here is the example where we declare port fast Ethernet 24 as a trusted port, and then declare the AI IP ARP inspection also trust. So apa dynamic ARP inspection ni buat adalah bila dia maksudnya inspect tu, dia akan tengok both destination or source MAC address and the binding with the IP address. Okay, so it checks the destination MAC address in the Ethernet header against the target MAC address in the ARP body. So adakah dia sama kan? Sebab tadi the threat actor dia boleh tukar dengan MAC address diri dia sendiri. Okay, then dia boleh check the source MAC address against the sender MAC address and also checks for the invalid and unexpected IP. For example, ni lah network dan broadcast and also multicast addresses. Finally, let's look at how to mitigate spanning tree protocol attacks. Okay, so cara threat actor try to attack the spanning tree protocol adalah dengan hantar BPDU. So dalam BPDU, dia boleh cuba hantar a more superior switch punya bridge ID untuk menjadikan threat actor tu sebagai root bridge. So how we want to prevent that adalah menggunakan 1 port fast and 2 BPDU guard. I think I also mentioned in the previous video that you can use also IP source guard. Okay, but for this context, we look at port fast dan juga BPDU guard. So the term port fast refers kepada spanning tree protocol process di mana dia tak go through all the states tetapi dia terus letakkan sesuatu port into a forwarding or blocking. Okay, so kita assume untuk port yang menghadap kepada end device, dia sepatutnya boleh terus jadi forwarding. Okay, so when we declare port fast on a particular port, dia terus akan jadi forwarding. Dia tak akan go through the listening and learning state lah. Bila dia letak dalam port fast, kita assume bahawa that port will be always connected to an end device and it will never receive a BPDU. Itu maksudnya macam mana kita nak prevent STP attacks, sebab kita nak make sure port itu expect dia hanya connected kepada end device, not a bridge, not a switch ataupun device yang boleh generate BPDU. Next, kita boleh gunakan STP feature called BPDU guard. Okay, so what it does adalah it immediately error disables a port that receives a BPDU. So tadi remember we declare that particular port hanya boleh connect kepada end device. Okay, so now bila kita expect that particular port hanya connect kepada end device, so kalau dia receive a BPDU, let's say a threat actor ataupun a rogue switch is connected to that port and generates BPDU, kita enablekan BPDU guard supaya port itu shut down ataupun error disable bila dia terima BPDU. So that's the function of the BPDU guard. So generally these two commands will be configured on the same port lah, port yang attached kepada end devices. So this is the command to configure port fast. Basically senang je, spanning tree port fast. Okay, so dia boleh configure sama ada on a per port basis ataupun globally. Kalau globally semua akan jadi port fast lah. Tapi kalau ada port dekat switch kita yang bukan access port, it should be a trunk, so you should configure on a per port basis lah. Okay, pergi ke dalam setiap interface and then use spanning tree port fast. Kalau nak semua ataupun globally, you kena ada spanning tree port fast default dan dia dalam global configuration mode. Finally, untuk BPDU guard, dia juga boleh configure either globally ataupun on a per port basis. So, konsep dia sama, spanning tree BPDU guard enable ataupun spanning tree port fast BPDU guard default. So, that's it for switch security configuration.